Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this is how to use Araquanid. Guys, this Pokemon is really good. I'm really excited to be reviewing it. So much fun right here. But also, it is a bug water typing. Now we start getting to some really interesting stuff. Before the 7th generation, there was only one bug water type Pokemon ever, and that was Surskit. Not really that viable. So technically, Araquanid is going to be like the first bug water Pokemon you can expect to see in Pokemon battles. So that's why this might be a little bit new to you guys. But this is good. Flying, Rock, Electric. Those are our only weaknesses. We can deal with those for sure. We get a lot of neutral hits and also quite a good amount of resistances. Steel. The steel resistance, that helps with our fairy type Pokemon on our team. Ground, fighting, water, ice. We can bring this Pokemon in on so much. So that is really good to see right there. Offensively, bug water is kind of interesting. We know that bug is resisted by a lot of typings, but there's not really too much interference that we don't see any crossover from our resistances on the water and the bug. So we at least get 6 super effective hits: Dark, Grass, Psychic, Fire, Ground, and Rock. So pretty solid right there, I will say. And now, Araquanid stats. They actually look kind of low. Like, when I first saw Araquanid, I'm like, what's all the buzz about with this Pokemon? You look at the stats, like, alright, that can be a good tank. Like, I noticed that some Pokemon, even if they have, like, low hit points and a really high in 1 defense kind of stat, that's kind of not worth it. It's like, it's an okay special defense tank. Like, it's really good on just special defense, but it's not going to be able to survive too much else, and I'd rather bring another full special defense tank Pokemon. So maybe that could work out, but the 92 on defense is workable. However, the more you look into this Pokemon, the better it gets. I'm not saying these stats are bad, but at first glance, it's like, oh, it's okay. But then we look at the Water Bubble ability. Lowers the power of Fire-type moves done to the Pokemon. So effectively, we have a Fire-type resistance as well, which is really nice. Oh, it also prevents burn. And it also makes it to where it deals twice the amount of damage when it uses Water-type moves. That's a lot. That is the most overtuned single ability I could possibly think of. Like, this reminds me of Release Yasuo, when people are like, yo, you have a shield for free? Yeah, that's my passive. Wait, you're always critting me? Yeah, that's my other passive. It's like Araquanid's ability just keeps adding on, and that means, okay, now that 70 attack actually doesn't look so bad anymore, and maybe we can make it work around. You know, we can go higher tank investment and still get a lot of damage out of our water type hits. Even then, like, the no burning, that means we're still gonna be able to get reliable physical hits off, and also the fire resistances, so it makes us just more and more tanky the more we go into our water bubble ability. And then when we think about it, still a really tanky Pokemon. Like, Toxapex is the new just absolute filth tank right now, but it has less hit points and slightly more special defense. So Araquanid is going to be a little tankier on a special defense build. Like, you max out the hit points, and that means you pretty much are as tanky as a unspecial defense invested Toxapex, which is really nice to think about. Since we can put the rest in defense, and we're going to be slightly under Toxapex. But also, Toxapex has arguably little bit worse on the weaknesses. Like, it has that ground weakness. We actually resist ground, which is a major plus. So our resistances are still pretty good, even though we don't get as many. And comparable to Toxapex, yeah, we're actually going to put out more damage, like a lot more damage, while also having some good tankiness behind us. Yeah, this could work. Okay. Just the more that you sit and think on Araquanid, like, this Pokemon is super awesome. So now we're going to go hop on over to Cerebi, check out the list of moves that this Pokemon can get. Now, the first thing I'm going to notice is, no, we don't have any sustain. Like, we have the Aqua Ring, which, I don't really think that matters too much. Like, Aqua Ring, Protect, Leftovers, that kind of takes up a lot of slots for us, even though it would give us a very substantial amount of healing, but it depends on, like, how tanky and how much you just want to kind of sit in there on this Pokemon. Now, the Water Bubble is just going to give us a lot of really good stuff, and we also do have Water Absorb. I mean, if you're running like a tanky set in doubles and you have like Surf or some kind of like water synergy that's hitting everyone, that Water Absorb for the free core to health could be pretty nice, because the Water Bubble, if you're not going for damage and you're not really worried about eating burns and stuff, then it's not a super insane kind of ability. But in doubles, like, yeah, you're going to be able to cover for those weaknesses. That Pokemon is trying to burn you, you can play around that with like Protect or something like that. Then the Water Absorb is extra heals while being really tanky. So maybe the Araquanid could have some usage on its secondary ability right there. But then as we go more into it, we just see the standard stuff that we're looking for. We get Liquidation. Awesome. Now we have a chance of lowering the target's defense. That's all we really need. Then we can see the Leech Life. Oh, now we get Sustain. We have a Pokemon that is this tanky, and we get a Sustain move. Unfortunately, this is not boosted. Now, I would be more interested in thinking, like, if maybe the stab just got 50%, like 50% to bug and water type hits instead of 100% to water type hits. But then that would make the sustain on leech life really insane. So yeah, that's just something to consider right there. And then the rest of our coverage starts to drop off. It's like Leech Life, maybe the Scald for burn. That way we can burn them and then try to make them lose just a little bit of health over time, but also make it to where they're doing less damage to our weakest defensive stat on that defense. Then we see Power Split and Stockpile. Yes, okay. Now we have a Toxapex. Now we have a different type Toxapex. Effectively doesn't have as much healing, but does have like more damage and the sustain from it. So that could be very usable. But Stockpile means that we're just going to see a lot of tankiness on this Pokemon. It's going to be really hard to budge. Like, it's going to get deceptively tanky really quick, because I think another thing is that when you look at its design, it's like, oh, it's just a spider. Like, how tanky can that flimsy little spider be? Apparently incredibly tanky, especially because it uses its bubble to like headbutt things. So that's like a very strong reinforced bubble apparently. And now let's go and check out the movesets. So there's a pretty solid offensive moveset for the Araquanid that you just run Liquidation, Leech Life, Lunge, and Scald. And this is just great amounts of synergy and solid amounts of damage, and that's just going to be how it works. So your Liquidation is now going to double this. So maxi attack on the Liquidation is huge amounts of damage while still being really tanky. I like the idea of the Assault Vest because now you can match up against, you know, electric type of hits. You can match up against a lot of really powerful stuff and just not even care, and then heal it all back with the Leech Life. So 70 attack on Leech Life. You're still getting stabbed, you're still getting a decent amount of damage. It's not like you're getting insane amounts of boost or insane amounts of healing back, but it's better than nothing. You do 30% to an opponent and you get 15% of your health back. That's more than a leftover. So you can get little bits of damage. You can start chipping away at them. The Lunge, again, defense is our weakest stat, and it has a 100% chance to lower the target's attack. So what you can do is Lunge into Leech Life. That's going to make it to where you're taking less damage, and then you're healing up. And it depends on like how you're looking to chip your opponent, or also if the opponent's setting up. If they're going for bulk up, if they're going for Swords Dance is still a tough call unless you know that you can like 2-hit KO that Pokemon. But yeah, if you know that they're going to be going for some kind of setup, Dragon Dance Pokemon, like if you can just, they go Dragon Dance, you go Lunge, okay? They go Dragon Dance, you go Lunge. They're only gaining speed. Araquanid is already incredibly slow with that 42 on its speed, so it's not going to care that it's getting outsped to this degree, and then that Pokemon setting up the Dragon Dance is still taking little bits of damage every turn, and then that means, you know, you're keeping an even pace right there. Finish them off with a Liquidation, go for Leech Life, try to find that extra bit, and that could work out pretty well. And then Scald, it's rough, because 30% chance to burn the target. So you're gambling on a half attack drop compared to that 30% guaranteed attack drop. But the Scald, you know, a little bit of damage over time. Like, the Scald is good to have against other tankier Pokemon that even though Burn was nerfed from 1/8 to 1/16 in the 7th generation, you can at least nullify leftovers. And that could be pretty big in the long run, especially because if you're still using Leech Life and stuff and you can't get burned. So if you're in some kind of Scald war, you're just going to win. And it synergizes with the Assault Vest because we're not playing any status. So you can just run out there and do really silly things on the Araquanid. Trick Room could be really nice because now you're outspeeding with a Lunge, and then they're doing less damage by the time they get to attack you. So Araquanid, yeah, it's got that pretty down. And then we can go and check out another set. So I was thinking Lychee Berry, yo. Lychee Berry is going to raise your attack when you drop to 1/4 hit points or less. So a little bit of a gamble. I will say it's a little bit of a gamble, but when you look at the health ranges that you're dealing with this Pokemon, it seems possible, especially with the stockpile. Like, you stockpile, take a hit, stockpile, take a hit. Well, it's going to drop you to low health most of the time, so you're going to get that +1 boost, and then you can kind of turn it around with a Leech Life or something like that to gain all that health back. Now you're still tanky, and you're still putting out decent amount of damage, but this is like a full tank set. So you're mostly going to be getting your damage off of Liquidation, getting the defense drop, then Leech Lifing off of that for the most damage possible. But after you get the Lychee Berry, it's kind of like you're retaining this level of tankiness while doing as much damage as this Araquanid right here, that the numbers pretty much balance out. So that's a little bit of an interesting thing that can result of this. But then we have Power Split. Now, Power Split is where this could add up even more, because Power Split is going to average the attack and special attack. Well, if we're not investing to our attack and we average it out with a certain Pokemon, that means we're going to be able to get more attack than we had with this set. Then Lychee Berry is going to activate, because now that Pokemon's doing less damage to us, both physically and specially. Like, Araquanid has a really low special attack. So you Power Split with that, even against a special attacker, we might not gain as much attack stats, but they're still doing less damage to us. We stockpile, Lychee Berry activates, and then that's when we can start going for a health back on the Leech Life, on the Liquidation. So those are some options that you can play. Now, this is also where you know, maybe a leftover set would just kind of go for a longer kind of battle, but then we're still going to be in a really weird spot on how much damage we can actually do. Water absorb Pokemon or very heavy water resisting Pokemon are going to make our life very difficult because that's where our main bulk of damage is coming on with this liquidation. If you don't really care about stockpile, like Power Split is going to give you effective tankiness and more damage, so you can get rid of the stockpile. Put in some kind of other move here, like the lunge could work, crunch for extra coverage, maybe the Aqua Ring here, that way you're getting slightly some kind of health back, that you Power Split Aqua Ring. That if everything lines up perfectly, that's going to give you enough health to where, like, after you take that next hit, your Lychee Berry is going to activate. Like, this makes you a realistic 4-hit KO Pokemon, low-end 3-hit KO Pokemon, depending on where you're going. That means you're getting the Lychee boost after the Power Split, slight amounts of Aqua Ring healing, and then your Leech Life will be able to sustain you. So it's a really awkward, kind of gambly kind of set, but then you imagine now you have an Araquanid that's +1, and then tankier than your average Araquanid, and still doing good amounts of damage, and then also getting slight amounts of health at the end of turn. So the Aqua Ring could add into that. Maybe if you're just going for like damage over time, that could be another thing to add. You do get the infestation, so there's like potential for toxic infestation sets, or if sustain is that much of a problem, just run the Normalium Z. So stockpile as a Z move will actually max out your health. That you gain all of your health back and you retain that stockpile. So now you're getting a full heal +1 to your defenses with that Normalium Z. So you're going to be giving up damage on the Lychee Berry, but it's kind of showing that you can like hybridize everything. That instead of running the Assault Vest, you know, you take off one of these moves. I would take off the Lunge, because if we're running stockpile, then their -1 doesn't really matter too much. So we go Assault Vest, Normalium Z, and now we're still running roughly the same Pokemon. That after one stockpile, we're getting the same amount of damage reduction as the Assault Vest. And then if we Normalium Z that stockpile, so really all we have to do is be a 3-hit KO Pokemon after one stockpile, and then that's super doable. So we stockpile Z move, now we're at full health, now we're at +2, so our defense is higher, our special defense is higher, our attack is still really maxed out, and then we just try to crush people on that Leech Life, the Liquidation, and the Scald. And we're still stupid tanky, and we still have that damage, so we're going to get little bits back off of that Leech Life, and it could be slightly less than what they're doing to us. But now this is scary. That's a scary set right there. So just kind of showing if you want the setup, you can take it. The Assault Vest on the Araquanid means that you can just switch it in, though, that it can be a lot more get up and go. That stockpile, there is a little bit of risk that if you do get crit, it's going to ignore those defenses. If you're going up against a very overwhelmingly powerful Pokemon or another Z move, that might get in the way and interfere a bit. So there is a little bit of risk. Also, you are using your one Z move for the battle, so that could also take away from what you're trying to set up. They also went and hit up your boy Dan, aka A-Drive, to ask him what he was thinking about the Araquanid, since it is one of his favorite Pokemon from the new generation. Looks like he wants to take it a little bit tankier. You know, you still got that Leech Life, you got some Toxic right there, but Power Trick or Mirror Coat. The Mirror Coat was an option. We saw that on Cerebi, and when you're that specially tanky, there is still a good chance, like the opponent does 50-60% on a really overpowered special kind of move right there, and then you just Mirror Coat and they die. So that could be a really guaranteed way of getting good damage down against special attackers, and you could still run like hit point investment, like hit point attack into that, and then you Leech Life the health back that you took, and then you still have the leftovers on sustain. So the turns are going to go like this. Take a big hit, drop down to like 40%, that way your Mirror Coat is going to be like KOing pretty much everything, get a slight amount back from your leftovers. After that, you take a hit from something weaker, so then that means you're going to be dropped pretty low, but then your Leech Life is going to heal you up, leftovers comes in again, so you're getting extra bits of damage, extra bits of tankiness, and then just going to line up into at least a KO, and then potentially something else. Also the Scald, so you have some damage over time right there, so it's like Scald, Leech Life, Toxic, and then hopefully the moves don't really interfere right there. You know, you burn the targets that are physical, you Toxic everything else, and then you just hit whatever you can on the Leech Life for the sustain. Also, who the hell is Ace Trainer Troy? Either way, the Araquanid does sound pretty cool, so let's go and check out some damage calculations. Wow. Wow, that liquidation though. That liquidation though! Like, the water bubble effectively makes every stab hit a super effective hit. So now we're running a 70, you know, brave, adamant, whatever, high attack. This doesn't even have a life orb on it. This is just what the Assault Vest is capable of. So maybe even like doubles Trick Room life orb is going to be a pretty big thing to go into. And then you can one-shot a Pokemon like Weavile. So anything with like 70 on hit points and defense is still going to be in a very good KO threshold. Even like 70-75 is still a higher chance to KO. And that also means like your Leech Life. Your Leech Life, super effective effective damage. That's going to KO a Weavile. And then look how much damage Weavile is doing back. Not a lot. Even if we go and throw on a Life Orb, it's not going to have enough to super leave one-shot us. So we're going to get most of our health back off of that Leech Life and those super effective kind of hits. I also want to bring up like the Oricorio. So Oricorio is in kind of an awkward set. Let's go make this modest. Let's go and bring out the Revelation Dance, because it's going to make it a electric Revelation Dance. But even after we max it out, you know, the 98 special attack, super effective hit isn't really going to have enough for us. Even with a Life Orb, like, the damage doesn't add up. But look at that. That's the range. The 75 hit points, 70 defense on that liquidation just for the neutral KO. Or the 2-shot on Leech Life, or something like that if we want to just kind of play around. And it just shows like the power behind the damage and the Assault Vest. Xurkitree, another really wacky matchup right here, that after Stealth Rocks, you one-shot on liquidation and you don't get KO'd by Thunderbolt. So if it's Modest, Scarf, Xurkitree, that's your matchup. Like, it's, you can use it like that. That if they're thinking, oh, I'm just going to switch into Xurkitree, well, if they switch in, then it's going to get blown up by the Leech Life or the liquidation. And even if it, like, they're like, okay, I'm anticipating to switch in, I'm going to take damage off the Leech Life, and I'm going to be able to survive that. I outspeed on my Scarf, and then I one-shot on Thunderbolt. No, you can't do that to the Araquanid. This thing doesn't even have special defense investment. It just has the Assault Vest, and without the Assault Vest, that's where things will start looking bad. That's why it's like, yo, you run the Assault Vest. Or if you already have one stockpile, you're in the same position. So that's just scary amounts of damage, scary amounts of potential. Yeah, after the Stealth Rocks, it's pretty much over right there. So if they're switching in on that Stealth Rocks as well, that's game. If they're already below half, you can go for the Leech Life, try to get some of that health back that you just took. So the damage coming out of Araquanid, very surprising. This is what I mean when you're looking at stats. You're like, that 70 attack isn't going to do much. Even with the Aqua Bubble, or the Water Bubble, is it really there? Is there really enough? Yes. Yes, there is. I just wanted to bring up some random comparisons with a Pokemon like the Garchomp. So the reason behind this Garchomp is to show off the power of that power split. So let's go, does it even show power split? No, it doesn't, because it's like, it's not a damaging move. Either way, the power split on a Garchomp. This is the number I was talking about. So if you have a Pokemon with like 125, 130 attack, and it's maxed out, even if it doesn't even have a beneficial nature, like Jolly Garchomp. So we average our stats. Well, averaging the stats with this Garchomp is going to give us the same amount of attack as this set right here. So it's going to effectively give us like 252 EVs and then the offensive nature. And then, that's where I'm looking at these ranges right here. So, we power split. Now Garchomp is going to lose a good chunk of its attack. It hits us again, and then that's where the Lychee Berry is going to activate. And then that's where we're still going to have more damage. So we're going to be at +1, while also having this level of attack and this level of damage. So that just shows like all of a sudden our KOs are going to explode right there, and it's still going to be pretty good. So let's go and like change it up. So we went 252 into that, then we also had the +1. Yeah, now we're turning it around, and we're finding some really high amounts of damage, even though this is just with the careful nature. So if you can steal from a very tanky Pokemon, or if you already have a stockpile and then you swap around stats like that, it's just going to work in your favor really well. So it's kind of showing that the ramp up on the Araquanid, very scary. It can match up with really strong Pokemon. I mean, even into the Garchomp. So let's go take out the defensive. The Rock Slide's brutal. The Dragon Claw's a little brutal as well. So I'm trying to justify how you could actually win this one, even though it might not be doable in a straight 1v1. Like, Leech Life to heal, survive the other Dragon Claw into a liquidation could... Oh wait, actually, yeah, look at that. If we make it Adamant Nature, that would be enough in like a decent chance right there. So yeah, good chances to actually find the KOs if you went like survive, Leech Life, liquidation. You will be low after that, but I mean, it just kind of shows like Araquanid just going to deal with a Garchomp. It can just kind of deal with whatever Pokemon that comes its way. So it's showing some really good stuff right there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.